I'm delighted to welcome everyone to the third webinar in our series on business startups for people with disability. For those of you who are joining us for the first occasion, the idea behind the webinars is that it provides information for people with disabilities who might be interested or considering starting up their own business. The webinar series is being run by the Dublin Regional Enterprise Plan to 2020, and under that particular plan, in Pillar 5, there is a commitment to inclusivity of people from minority and disadvantaged backgrounds in terms of employment and self-employment. There's a strong commitment there to include people from all backgrounds. I'm delighted to thank again Alan Hatton and Open Doors Initiative, who are offering the technical support for the webinar and have been doing throughout the series. And I'm delighted to welcome our panelist speakers for today. We've got a very packed program, and so we'll get started immediately. Just to let people know, can I please ask you to have your mics turned off so that we have minimal interference. We won't be taking any questions immediately. So the process is all of the speakers will talk in turn. And then once that is completed, each has 10 minutes. And once that is completed, we will then have a panel discussion and a Q&A session. You can use either the chat room to put your questions, and at the very end, there may be an opportunity for some audio questions if we have time. We finish at 1 o'clock. It's a 1 hour session only. So I see from the chat room, we've got friends from who've been with us throughout, people like Eddie Hennessy. Eddie, good to know you're with us again, and others. And yeah, it's good that we are obviously having an appeal that is bringing people back to us on a regular basis. Without further ado, I am most delighted to welcome to this webinar Minister Anne Rabbitte. Minister Rabbitte is the Minister of State with responsibility for disability. At what was the Department of Health and the Department of Justice and Equality, but Minister, that name has now changed, so I'll let you to tell us the name of the new department. Minister, you're most welcome, and we're delighted to have you with us. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks very much, Tom. And firstly, and it's my pleasure to open today's webinar. This initiative is a great opportunity to map out the supports in place for people with disabilities to achieve success in business. And I was delighted to hear just before I came on screen that over 140 people have logged in successfully to the webinar today, and I know that you've had huge number of people in the other previous two webinars, and you happen to reference a man there at the very start, Eddie. He has reached out to me on Twitter along the way, and he is flying the flag for people with disabilities in an employment. So I want to thank yourself, Professor Thomas Cooney of the TU Dublin, for moderating the session and including today's event, the Open Doors Initiative, for hosting today. And to Mr. Declan McCullough, the Programme Manager for the Dublin Regional Enterprise Plan, for all the work he has done to date in making these webinars a reality. One of the things I've noticed since being appointed as Minister for Disabilities is the fact that disabilities is often viewed through a health lens. The UN Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, which was Ireland ratified in 2018, demonstrates that the government's approach needs to be much more than this. People with disabilities have interest in arts, sport, education, and we're discussing today business and startups. That's why it's such a privilege to speak here today as we look further and widen our approach to supporting people with disabilities. If you want to achieve full equality and integration when it comes to disabilities, we must work towards fulfilling our duties under the UNCRPD, and events like this demonstrate how this can be done. In that regard, moving disabilities from the Department of Health to the newly formed Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth will be a major boost to reframing the discussion around disability. When it comes to startups, it's not an easy road to travel, but one which can be paved with much success. I've always had a lot of appreciation for anyone who ventures out on their own with something new to offer to the world. The lineup of speakers this morning is excellent, and they will talk to you about enterprise financial supports currently available in startups in Ireland. As the pandemic took hold earlier this year and businesses had to close their bricks and mortar premises, we saw many turn to e-commerce. In fact, some businesses' online presence has grown at a pace that would in normal times take much longer. This demonstrates how agile the SME sector is and how quickly businesses can adapt. In recognising the importance of the sector, the Programme for Government knows that central to our recovery from this pandemic will be our SME community. Such businesses are the backbone of our economy and support as many jobs across the country. Growing businesses online is a central element to the government's national digital strategy, and we have developed supports to help businesses bolster their online presence. The expanded trading online voucher is designed to assist small businesses up to with 10 employees to trade more online, boost sales and reach new markets. Participating in this scheme can help business to make process on trading online much easier. The Trading Online Voucher Scheme offers financial assistance of up to €2,500 with a co-funding of 10% from the businesses, along with training and with advice to help get your business trading online. Cutting the cost of developing your online trading capacity by up to 90% can make this investment very affordable for many small businesses out there. Beyond this, the Programme for Government sets a clear task to deliver the National SME Growth Plan that will map out the long-term strategic blueprint beyond COVID-19. This growth plan will be published alongside the National Economic Plan later this month. The plan will develop a long-term strategy for SMEs so that we are in a best position to take advantage of the recovery when it comes, and to strengthen the capacity, the competitiveness and the potential of all small businesses when we do return to normal times as possible after the crisis. It's important to remember our small and medium enterprises make up 98% of all Indigenous Irish businesses. They undoubtedly have a central role to play in all our futures, and that is why the government is putting SMEs and entrepreneurs at the heart of our ambition, so together we can generate a broad-based growth and prosperity in every part of the country. It is so important that the government to have an enterprise support system that enables everyone reach their potential. In that regard, the Department of Children, Equality, Disability, Integration and Youth and coordinates the comprehensive employment strategy for people with disabilities. The CES sets out a 10-year approach to ensure that people with disabilities are able to and work and supported and able to do so. It takes a cross-government approach to address the barriers to people with disabilities. Implementation of the strategy is monitored by an implementation group independently chaired by Fergus Fennelly. This group includes senior representatives of government departments, the National Disability Authority and the Disability Stakeholder Group, employers and trade unions. The second action plan for the strategy was published in December 2019. One action contained in it of particular relevance to today's event and for further series of webinars. The action plan provides for the creation of a strategy that promotes and supports entrepreneurship and self-employment for persons with disability. This will be led by the Department of Enterprise, Trade and Employment and Enterprise Ireland, and they will be supported in this by the National Disability Authority. Finally, I have been asked to mention the I Am Remarkable workshop taking place on the 3rd of December, and I would also like to encourage you to sign up by contacting Professor Tom Cooney. and you will hear more about this later. Meanwhile, I would like to wish you every success in today's webinar and in future webinars. Coming from East Galway, in a place called Portumna, which is quite rural, and we don't have a lot of employment. Entrepreneurship is a big thing for me, and SMEs. And I would have been part of a group, and still am part of a group called Grow Remote, where people can work from their own homes. I'm also, one of my staff members is a chapter leader in Portumna. We would have helped set them up in Loughrea. So I have a huge appreciation for the whole online space. And this space is not just a space for a particular group, it's a space for all. So that's why I was delighted when Tom asked me, would I participate in today's webinar? Because I believe in that whole inclusivity and the whole integration. And that's the most wonderful place where we've got to with this whole online space. I think it has actually parachuted people's engagement and people's participation, and actually opened up a complete new world that we mightn't have ever engaged with before this pandemic. So I want to wish you all the very best of luck for the rest of the day. And I'm going to stay on for a while, Tom, on the thing. Thank you.
Sir, thank you so much, and thank you so much for your support, and also it was very heartening to hear of the future plans around self-employment within the Department of Enterprise for targeted at people with disability. Minister, as we develop this initiative next year, I'm hoping that we can meet with you to kind of talk about what more can be done and develop collaboratively support for the community. So again, thank you so much. You mentioned, actually, Minister, the I Am Remarkable initiative, which is quite fantastic. So I'm delighted to welcome Yulia Krisan. For our final workshop, we're doing a dedicated workshop only open to people with disability, and its maximum number of attendees is 30. And it's I'm inviting Yulia now to talk about that workshop and just basically promote it in a brief mention. Yulia?
Thank you, Tom. Hello, everyone. Delighted to be here. So, as Tom said, I'm here to tell you a couple of things about the I Am Remarkable initiative. Before that, a brief introduction for myself. My name is Yulia. I've been working at Google for almost 7 years as an international growth manager, managing a team of consultants. But I'm not here to talk about international growth. In my day-to-day job, I also lead and sponsor a couple of really cool diversity and inclusion and personal development initiatives, and I Am Remarkable initiative is one of them. I'm also a facilitator. So the initiative is aimed at empowering women and other underrepresented groups to celebrate their achievements in the workplace and beyond. I Am Remarkable started in 2015 as an internal Google initiative. It was aimed just at women and focused empowering women in tech to talk more openly about their accomplishments in the workplace. However, the team quickly realized that these issues raised weren't specific just to women. They applied to all those from any underrepresented groups, be that due to gender, ethnicity, sexuality, ability, or whatever else it might be. And we have since then opened the workshop beyond Google. And as of today, we have more than 140,000 workshops delivered in more than 130 countries by more than 7,000 facilitators. So the workshop I will be delivering in December will be a 90-minute workshop where you will learn the importance of self-promotion in your professional and personal life. And we will equip you with some tools to develop these skills. You will be invited to challenge the social norms around social perception and self-promotion. And we will have two main objectives. One, improve promotion motivation and skills of women and underrepresented groups. And secondly, challenge the social perception around self-promotion. I am very excited and very much looking forward to the workshop in December. Enjoy the rest of the webinar and see you all soon. Thank you again, Tom.
You're very welcome, Julia. And just for participants in today's webinar, I attended one of these workshops earlier this week, and it was quite superb, and I can highly recommend it. So for that webinar, what the plan is, I am going to send an invitation to participants of webinars 1, 2, and 3. It's going to be a closed invitation, so it won't be available publicly. It's only open to those who participate in the webinar series, and it's the first 30 people who respond will get places on that webinar. Because there's a restriction on 30, for the nature of the workshop. So details of that will be sent out next week, and as I say, it's available only to people with disability and only to people who've attended the one of the 3 webinars that we've had. So, Julia, thank you so much, and we look forward very much to that webinar on December. Our next speaker is Owen Hanrahan. Owen is with Enterprise Ireland, and Owen's going to talk us through enterprise supports that are available through the enterprise agencies such as Enterprise Ireland and the local enterprise offices. So Owen, delighted to welcome you, and thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Tom, and thank you very much for the opportunity to present today. As you said, I suppose the focus of the presentation is to map out the supports for business startups from the perspective of the local enterprise offices and from Enterprise Ireland. So while my name is Owen Hanrahan, I'm the Regional Director for Dublin. We work very closely with the local enterprise offices. And also to, I suppose, emphasise from Declan McCullough's perspective and the Regional Enterprise Plan that this has been a very important initiative from our perspective in terms of this particular activity. And just to thank you very much for the invitation today again. So just to, as I say, in terms of mapping out, just to quickly run through some of the key points, and obviously some of this information is all available on the web, and we can discuss any points at a future date. So the local enterprise offices, just in terms of the way they're structured, so they look after companies employing less than 10, and I suppose that's a key point in terms of the difference between Enterprise Ireland and the local enterprise offices. So Enterprise Ireland looks after 10 plus, and I suppose that's the key differentiator. Okay, so there are 31 local enterprise offices in Ireland, and again, the idea is that no matter where you are in Ireland, there's a local enterprise office near you that can support you in terms of starting and developing your journey as part of a new business opportunity. Okay, so you might ask, what are the services do the LEOs provide? So I suppose the key things they look at are mentoring and business advisory services, financial support, training, and promoting an enterprise culture. And as the Minister said, it is a journey that people take as part of this, and it is for setting up a new business, and it can be challenging. So what we're looking to do here is to make sure that all the supports are there to assist companies as they progress through in terms of that development journey as they develop and grow. Okay, so some of the supports that are available. So we look at a specific category, we'll call it the M1 financial supports. What we have is feasibility study as part of an innovation grant, business primary grant, and business expansion. So there are 3 different types of funding mechanisms that are there for companies that employ less than 10. So again, just to repeat, feasibility study, business primary grant, and business expansion. So who are they targeted at? As I said, they're targeted at companies, so they're manufacturing and internationally traded services companies. So that's really where the focus is at. And the qualifying criteria is that these companies employ up to 10, that they have a commercial proposition, that there is that opportunity for them to grow. There's a growth potential. A key point in any support that we provide, obviously, is this concept of displacement, that by giving one company support, we're not distorting the market, so we make sure there's no displacement. And this concept of adding value is very important in terms of what we do from both the LEO's perspective and Enterprise Ireland perspective. So we want to see what is the added value. So in that context, what is new? What's in terms of your company? What is different about your company that's going to provide an opportunity for that company to grow and be competitive in the marketplace? Okay, and then obviously from an agency's perspective, we're anxious that these companies create employment, and that's a key thing. Okay, just to reiterate in terms of the feasibility grant, what the support is there. So I suppose the key thing is that it's a 50% support, up to 15,000, whichever is the lesser. Now, if you're in the border, Midlands and West region, that can be 60% of a grant. And I suppose the idea behind a feasibility is to scope out your business. You want to see, okay, is there a market for my business? Is there potential to grow this business? And who effectively wants my product or service? And that's a key thing in terms of that feasibility grant. And once you have that established, the next phase that we look to is the business prime grant. Okay, and in terms of support there, that support can be quite significant in terms of a 50% grant up to an investment of max 150,000, whichever is the lesser. And that can include capital equipment, employment, again, in terms of what you're trying to achieve and grow the company. And again, we have a business expansion grant. Shall we pay 50% again, up to the max of 150,000, whichever is lesser. And each of these is looking at that early stage of development, looking at support to companies to get consultancy, capital equipment, employment, and those necessary supports that are there to bring you to the next level. Okay, so I suppose that's a key thing that we're looking at as part of these supports. So just one second. Sorry about that. Okay, so the next category of support is the M2 supports, and that's in the context of starting your own business courses, management development training, and business advice, clinics, and mentoring. And again, a key perspective from the LEOs is that what they've learned is that financial support is not enough in its own right, that there obviously has to be those soft supports that are there. So again, it looks at what is the best way to get people informed about running their own business. So they have a number of start your own business programs. So we have your start your own business program that is there for companies that are less than 2 years old. And the idea is that it looks at topics include entrepreneurship, legal issues for startups and GDPR, market research, digital marketing, taxation issues, all the things that would be important for a company that's starting out in terms of what's next and what do I need to know. There's a management development training program. And again, there's a number of training offers that are available from the LEOs. And this is very much, again, at looking at tax, communications, legal issues. And again, a very important one at the moment is planning for Brexit. So that would be a key driver from the LEO perspective. And then obviously there's the important area of mentoring and advice. And there's one-to-one services that are provided, and also general mentoring and special mentoring support that are available to companies. So it's very important that in that context that, and it's a very important service that's provided for companies by the LEOs in the context of that one-on-one mentoring support. And as the Minister mentioned, the trading online voucher is a very important area of support. And another area of support is TAME. Again, it's a €2,500 support. It's technical assistance for micro exporters. And then our colleagues will talk about Microfinance Ireland and other supports that are available. I suppose the next thing is to, if in terms of transitioning from that, so that would be very much the LEO-based support offers. And then from an Enterprise Ireland perspective, if we move it to the next level, so Enterprise Ireland supports, as I said at the start, 10 plus companies employing 10 plus that are manufacturing internationally traded services companies. And a key thing that we're looking at as well is also high potential startup companies. Okay, and I suppose the criteria there for those companies is that companies that will achieve 10 employment and have a turnover of more than $1 million within 3 years. And I suppose that's the key thing that we look for in terms of startups. And the relationship there's a very strong relationship between the LEOs and the Enterprise Ireland, in that the LEO is kind of that breeding ground for companies that are going to come through and feed into Enterprise Ireland as high potential startups. Okay. Now, obviously, some companies stay in that LEO area. They don't ever move into that high potential startup, but it's important to be aware of those companies that will move across. Okay. So that creates a situation where Ireland has become a very established country in terms of high potential startups and creating new economic opportunity. And that's very much what Enterprise Ireland looks to do. And it is a very strong portfolio of companies. It is there since 1998, and in terms of that specific mandate. and it's the third biggest source of seed funding in the world. Okay, so it's and a key element from an Enterprise Ireland perspective is that the number of international offices that are available. And I think that's a key issue that companies look to when they come to Enterprise Ireland for support. Is, again, I'll talk about the financial supports, but it's also the soft supports that are key in terms of getting access to those international offices. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can I just say you've got
2 minutes. Okay. Okay. Thanks, Tom. Okay. So what we're looking for from an Enterprise Ireland perspective in terms of high potential startups is those companies that are going to be highly innovative, where there's a technology that's going to, I suppose, bring change to the marketplace, and companies that can scale and grow. And I suppose, just as a comment, in terms of looking at our portfolio, about 35% of our companies come from indigenous, from the home market, which is very, very impressive in terms of what we're trying to do. And again, the key thing is we're looking at companies from that early stage of an exploring an idea, again, the feasibility piece, all the way through to grow and scale. So we have this, I suppose, this journey that we're getting on. And the key thing for us is to look at the level of funding that would be provided. So again, as with the LEOs, there's feasibility study. With Enterprise Ireland, there's also feasibility support, 50,000, 50% expenditure, which is ever the lesser. And then for companies that go to the next level, there's the Competitive Start Fund, which is a competition, there's calls for that, and it provides for 50,000 or 10% stake in the business, and that's a very important mechanism for companies that are in that startup space. And then when you move beyond that into the HPSU space, what we have is, on average, an investment of about 250,000, an equity investment by Enterprise Ireland in the company, and we support the companies as well with soft supports. And it's, again, the development advisors works with the company similar to the LEOs in terms of mentoring, getting access to the overseas offices, getting ready for other workshops, and getting companies ready for that international market, which is a challenging space. Okay, and just as another key point as well is that Enterprise Ireland supports part-time key managers as part of that, where companies are in our client base, and it's an important area of support for companies. So I suppose just in conclusion then, to say that both from the Enterprise Ireland and the LEOs, we're there to support companies that want to grow and develop. Hopefully I've been able to articulate in the short time the difference between the LEO and Enterprise Ireland, and that transition as you move between the two. And in conclusion then, just to say that Enterprise Ireland has some follow-up seminars as well. There's one on Wednesday, December 2nd, which will be run by Pauline Brennan, again, which it looks at in the area of autism. But again, it's just an important area of to make people aware of that as another webinar. I know Thomas is talking about the webinars that he's involved in as well. So it's very important that we're all part of this journey as well, in terms of looking and seeing how we can support companies to grow and develop. Okay, thanks, Tom.
Thanks very much, Owen, and thanks for taking us through the variety of supports that are available through the LEOs and through Enterprise Ireland. And I suppose the key point from all of that is talk to these agencies and find out what's available. There's some questions coming in online and the chat room. I'm just going to take some of them before we move on to Garrett. Is trading online a voucher available to primarily to e-commerce businesses or bricks and mortar business only? It's available, as my understanding is, to everyone, and it's about encouraging traditional businesses to move their businesses online. So it's particularly targeted towards traditional businesses who want to move their businesses online. Also, in terms of grants for retail startup businesses, my understanding is that with local enterprise offices, they don't give grants to locally traded services, which would be retail. There would be other forms of support available, but locally traded services wouldn't qualify for a grant. And there's another question here about people with disabilities don't have the same access to the first 50% of funding. How do we get the capital needed for extra grants and disability allowance? And we're high risk for bank lending. And that actually question leads us perfectly into our next speaker, who's Garrett Stokes. Garrett is the CEO of Microfinance Ireland. Garrett, I'm delighted to welcome you. And there's a question there that perfectly segs into your
We've lost Tom there, I think. Hi, everybody. Great to be on here with you. And as Tom said, I am Gareth Stokes of Microfinance Ireland. And over the next few minutes, what I would like to do is tell you about who Microfinance Ireland are, where else you should actually consider looking in relation to other sources of finance, which seems like a strange thing for me to be saying, the types of businesses we support, our loan packages, and hopefully have time at the end of all the presentations for some questions and answers. So the background to Microfinance Ireland is we're a not-for-profit lender. We were set up in 2012 to manage the micro enterprise loan fund on behalf of the government. Our mandate is very much to support economic growth and job creation by providing loans to startups and micro enterprises who cannot get finance from banks or other commercial loan providers for various reasons. We have both government and EU support to cover our overheads, and we also borrow from the main banks to fund our loan book. We are a very small team based in Dublin, but we actually have a panel of 40 credit assessors located across the country. So the big advantage of that is no matter where you're located, we have someone local who will meet you. In normal times, we would meet you face to face. Obviously, at the moment, we're doing that remotely. But due to this network, 79% of our customers are now businesses located outside of Dublin, which is fantastic. We work closely with local enterprise offices, the banks, and other organizations. So before I move on, just what really makes us very different to a bank, as a government and EU supported not-for-profit lender, we can take higher credit risks than commercial lending providers. We don't compete with the banks. We're actually quite independent. We do the lending the banks cannot and probably should not do. We've greater flexibility in how we structure and assess businesses and their financial needs. But ultimately, it always does come down to, do we believe the business is sustainable and can meet its repayments. Before I discuss whom we support and our loan products, I want to talk briefly about our other sources of money and supports. This may seem strange, as I was saying, that I'm making recommendations to go elsewhere, but actually a big part of our mandate is to help businesses to move on from the primary phase of business onto mainline banking and commercial lenders. So where should you be thinking about? Well, we are not your first port of call, but we're very happy to be that port of call. I always say to businesses when I'm talking to our people setting up a business, you do need to get to know a bank. You need to open a bank account. You need to build a relationship. And even if you cannot get bank finance immediately, you will need a bank to handle your day-to-day transactions. Banks are very good for short-term working capital needs and for term lending for investment or longer-term working capital. There's also in Ireland a huge number of non-bank commercial lenders, many specialising in leasing, trade finance, which you should also consider, and the likes of peer-to-peer lenders. While not necessarily a source of funds, you should also look at various programs and competitions being run in the marketplace, such as the Irish Best Young Entrepreneur. These are great, not just for the chance of winning some money, but the publicity you get, the training you get, and also the networks you will actually build up are hugely important and will help you through the future growth of your business. Finally, as Owen has touched upon, there are a wide number of government supports through EI, the LEOs, SPCI, and ultimately ourselves. And that's what I'll move on to now. So who can borrow from us? I always describe our customers as Main Street Ireland, small local retailers, service providers, restaurants, coffee shops, food producers, small manufacturers, trade people, and small professional practice. In fact, everything. We actually cover all sectors, but we do have about 25% of our customers in the retail, sales, and service sector. To be eligible, you must be a micro enterprise. And what does that mean? That means you have fewer than 10 employees and your annual turnover is less than 2 million. And 94% of businesses in Ireland are micro enterprises, so you probably meet that criteria. We are a jobs initiative, and as such, you must also be supporting and creating at least one job, but that job can be yourself. We support startups and established businesses that don't meet the conventional credit risk criteria of banks and are thus having problems getting money. You can be a sole trader, you can be a partnership, you can be a limited company. Many of our businesses are deemed to be by banks and elsewhere as higher risk, such as startups. Our people who find it more difficult to borrow, such as unemployed, migrants, seniors, females, young entrepreneurs, and people with disabilities. We are happy and willing and want to support all such sectors, anybody who can't get money from the banks. We focus heavily on startups, with 54% of our loans being startups. But whether you've started or thinking of starting or are starting, no matter how small you are, we're here to support you if possible. Bad credit history won't preclude you from getting credit from us. We'll look at your willingness and attitude towards your debts, as well as your ability to repay your creditors, borrowers, employees, and yourself. When it's analysing a proposal, we focus strongly on the business owner also. The ability, resilience, and expertise of the owner has a much higher bearing on the success of a business than nearly anything else. I always look for a strong business owner rather than a strong business, because a strong owner will bring us weak business along. One or two exclusions. We're not allowed to lend into sectors such as alcohol production, tobacco production, and gambling. And we also do not do research and development, nor will we take over other debts from other entities. The loan must be for business needs or for trading purposes. Now to look at our products. We have a broad range of products tailored to meet the stage and needs of your business, be it for startup costs, working capital, expansion, and indeed we have a special purpose loan for COVID-19 at the moment for the last 6 months, and also we've one for Brexit launching in the next week. The feature of our standard products are our maximum loan size is 25,000. We are dealing with small entities. This is not large SME finance. The term of our loans are 3 to 5 years, and usually 3 years for working capital purposes. Our lending is unsecured. Our rates and repayments are fixed for the period of the loan, giving you certainty for your cash flow on your loan repayments. Our standard rates are at the moment fixed rate APR of 7.8%, and this is reduced to 6.8% if you apply through one of our partners, such as the local enterprise office, or you're referred to us by a bank. We do not vary our interest rate based on risk and operate with a fixed margin over the cost of funds. Also always asked, there are no hidden fees and charges. All you ever pay is the interest. And even if you make an early repayment on what is a fixed loan, there are no penalties for that. What is very important and worth mentioning here is for all successful applicants, we offer mentoring support through your local enterprise office. No matter how skilled we all are at our core business, we're all weak at something, be it financial skills, planning, marketing. So during the approval process, we determine what business skills you would benefit from some mentoring on, and we pay the Leo to provide up to 5 sessions with them in this business discipline. I actually sometimes believe that this mentoring support is more valuable than the loan itself and help you sustain your business. Very briefly, our COVID-19 product, very similar to our other products, but has some excellent additional features. It also has one additional eligibility requirement in that you must have been negatively impacted by the pandemic by a minimum of 15% in terms of turnover or profitability. Therefore, this product is not available to startups who are just starting out in their journey. It is a support fund and is not available for business wishing to start up or expand as a result of the pandemic, and there are those. That's what our standard products are for. In addition to the main features of size and term, the real key features of this product is there is a 0 repayment and 0 interest period of 6 months at the beginning of the loan. So no interest to be paid, no repayments to be paid. Interest and repayments commence in month 7, and the loan is repaid over the remaining term of the loan. The interest rate after the interest rate period is also discounted to 4.5% APR if you're referred to us through the bank or through the local enterprise office, and 5.5% APR if you come directly to us. In addition, in this phase of our COVID-19 loan, there is a government rebate of the interest paid in the months 7 to 12 of the loan if you've actually made repayments through that full period of the months 7 to 12. Therefore, if you make those repayments in months 7 to 12, what you are actually getting is the equivalent of a 12-month interest-free loan. And this money is repaid to you by the government in month 13 directly to your business account. Apologies, that's slightly confusing. It's a
Garrett?
Yes,
Garrett, 1 minute.
Thank
1
you.
minute.
I'm nearly there. Therefore, the real rate charged on this loan is much lower than the advertised rate. It's a superb product. So in summary, we are here to support you if you're a startup or micro-enterprise and struggling to get money from commercial lenders. We are flexible in our assessment criteria, but your business must be sustainable and supporting at least one job. So if you are out there, you're trying to set up, you're struggling to get money, please give us a call. We're easily accessible by phone, email, or online, or through your local enterprise office. So come and talk to us. Happy to take any questions at the end. Thank you all.
Right. Thanks very much, Garrett, and and for talking us through what is available from Microfinance Ireland in comparison to the banks and other agencies. There's quite a number of questions coming in regarding supports and what might be available. I just want to make 2 points. First of all, I disappeared off screen, not sure if you can read this, but this is a publication that came out last year called Overview of Government Supports for Indigenous Businesses. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a link to this report in a moment, and I'll put it up on the chat room so that people can access that report and they can find out what's available on it. The other thing that's coming up on screen on the chat room is what's available in terms of tailored supports for people with disability. For those of you who would follow what I've written about and talked about previously, will know that currently there's relatively little tailored support available for people with disability in the country. Now, one of the things, obviously, the Minister talked about forthcoming strategy in this area, and that we don't know anything about just at the minute. We need to learn more about that and see what the plans are. But yeah, a number of questions regarding tailored support. The answer currently is there's very little tailored support available for people with disability. And I would agree with the notion that there are additional and distinctive costs involved for people with disability in starting their own business. And these are issues that will need to be addressed. So that's obviously a good opportunity also to bring us into someone who's been through the experience. And I'm delighted to welcome our final speaker is Caroline Shaughnessy. Caroline has established a social enterprise based on her own experiences, and I'm delighted to welcome her to share her story and give us, her thoughts on overcoming the challenges. So, Caroline, you're most welcome.
Thank you, Tom, and thanks for this opportunity. Hi, everyone. My name is Caroline O'Shaughnessy. This is my journey to starting Cumas Ceangal, that's connectability in English. Several years ago, my life changed for the worst. I went from being able to do whatever I want without thinking about it, to not being able to climb the stairs at home without having to sit down once or twice. I could only go to the shops when I knew it would be quiet, so I wouldn't have to queue. I had to think about parking. I couldn't walk very far. Then realization set in. I would never be able to work in a 9-to-5 job again, which left me faced with the prospect of losing my home. But more importantly, I had to face the fact that my life would never be the same again. I've always been a positive person and always find the silver lining, but this time I couldn't find it. I really tried to stay positive, but when you can't do even the little things, like meeting friends for a cup of coffee, I couldn't afford it. It's hard to stay positive. I felt alone, and a black cloud started to get closer and closer. What was the purpose to my life? I knew I had to find a way to help myself, but how? Then it dawned on me. I figured there must be a way of working online at times that suited me. I started looking, and all I could find were online surveys. So I started by completing the surveys, but I knew it wouldn't be a long-term solution. I kept searching, but it was so frustrating because I couldn't find any information or person to help or guide me in the right direction. There's an analogy I use to describe what my life felt like at that time, and here it is. Imagine you're in a boat without an oar on rapidly flowing water. You've no control or way of steering the boat to calmer waters. Behind you is your home, your whole life, everything you loved about your life, but it's getting further and further away from you. There's one thing getting closer, and that's the big black dark cloud. You've been struggling to get control of the boat. Your energy is zapped, but you know you have to do something before you sink to the bottom of the river. So you start reaching out for branches to make an oar. Some branches aren't strong enough and they break, but eventually you manage to grab enough to make an oar. Now you were able to steer the boat to calmer waters. I managed to make an oar, got myself back to calm waters, which helped me get my life back. Now I want to be standing on the riverbank, handing oars to others that are in the same situation I was in a few years ago, to help them get to calmer waters and build a better life for themselves. So this is how I managed to do it. Firstly, I signed up to a BA in Business Enterprise and Community Development with Equal Ireland. It was a 3-year course that would be run in the town where I live. Workshops were 1 day every 2 weeks. I could manage that. I would get a qualification at the end of each year, and hopefully I would meet and form friendships with people in the community. I knew no one where I live. I figured I could manage 1 year. When signing up, I only thought of hopefully completing first year. Where my head was at, there was no way I could have thought about year 2, never mind year 3. And my main goal was to meet people and to find a reason to get out of the house. Then a good friend had heard about an e-commerce website where I could become a freelancer. I looked into it and figured I had nothing to lose. There was no upfront payment. After a lot of trial and error, I completed my profile. When I say trial and error, I mean rewriting sentences to make them sound professional. Believe you me, trying to sell yourself when your head is in a bad place is extremely difficult. Then I started submitting proposals to potential clients, again trying to sell myself. It took months of trying to land my first job, but eventually I did. And another month or so to secure my second job. I learned the do's and don'ts of submitting proposals. I'm now a top-rated freelancer with 100% job success. I actually turned down jobs at this stage. I completed the 3 years of my BA course, which did wonders for my confidence. In my 3rd year, for my community development module, I submitted a business plan, and I quoted Tom in it. Based on me showing other disabled people how to do what I did. Research showed there are many other people in the same situation I was in. This was my chance to give back. My lecturer took me aside and told me it was amazing what I had done, and I should look further into establishing the organisation. This was the first steps to setting up Cumas Ceangal, a non-profit social enterprise that would help disabled and other marginalised groups become freelancers. I took his advice and filled up an application form to Social Entrepreneurs Ireland, and after pitching my idea, I was successful in gaining access to their Ideas Academy. The contacts I've made through SEI is unbelievable. It finishes in a few days. Around that same time, I submitted an application form to the Empower program with GMIT, and I've recently been accepted. It starts just after SEI finishes. I'm also enrolled in a BA Honours in Business and Social Enterprise Leadership and Management. Some of the modules include Social Enterprise Development and Governance, Leading and Managing Organisations, Not-for-Profit Theory and Practices, and Digital Marketing, which will all help me with Cumas Ceangal. I register for any webinar that with disability and self-employment, entrepreneurship and networking that fits around my current schedule. My idea is to run 3 5-hour workshops. I have the lesson plans and PowerPoint presentations completed, and I'm now looking for volunteers so I can pilot test the workshops. I'm trying to set up a steering committee. If anyone is interested in pilot testing or steering committee, please reach out. My email is my full name, Caroline O'Shaughnessy, no spaces, @hotmail.com, or you will find me on LinkedIn. My life has done a complete 180. It's amazing. 3 years ago, I had nothing to do from morning to night except doctors and hospital appointments. And now I have to check my calendar to make sure I don't double book myself. If someone had told me 3 years ago I would be where I am today, I would have said they were crazy. I have found the silver lining, and boy, am I holding on to it. Thank you.
I cannot thank you enough for sharing your story with us. Which I can see from the chat room is inspiring many people, and we wish you every success with your venture, and with encouraging others to join you on that journey.
Yeah.
Because it's a tough journey. And in terms of support, we're talking about this today, Caroline. In terms of support, what kind of support, kind of financial supports were you able to access, or was there difficulty there, or how did the finances sort itself out?
The finances actually didn't make any difference. I didn't have to go looking for it. There was no upfront payment for the e-commerce website. So, and then I'm on disability, and I'm able to earn €120 per week before it'll affect my disability. And so therefore, like, there's no upfront payment. So I've no overheads, bar my laptop and my printer and some stationery and, files and that kind of a thing. That's all. So that was part of the draw for me, because I couldn't afford anything else. I had no money to start something except for this. And there's so many jobs on the website, and it has huge possibility to expand. I can expand into other e-commerce websites, to do with drop shipping or, that kind of a thing, where it's the workshops.
Because I think what I'm picking up from the chat room, right, is that people are struggling with finance and getting financial support to get started, and they have ideas, and they have an ambition to do their own thing, but you were able to kind of work around it, I suppose, in many ways, by taking this particular route.
Yeah.
Just talk us through that a little, but can you also tell me again the website, and I'll put it up on the chat room for people to access.
I actually, the website that I use, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, the e-commerce site, it's upwork.com. It's an American website.
Upwork,
yeah, it's a freelancing website.
Okay, so I'll just put that on the chat box so as everyone can have it, and and that then allowed you to overcome the challenges of not having financial aid.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now at the moment, once I'm starting to with Commerce Candle, now I will need finances. I will need, so that's why I love going on to these websites to see what is available and the webinars and that.
Yeah, because that now becomes the challenge. You want to grow the business.
Yes.
And in growing the business, it's a tough one, because, as I said earlier, the locally traded services isn't usually available for grant aid. Now, if you're growing your business online, then you'll probably get support from the local enterprise office for the online voucher, right? So there might be opportunity for you there. Yeah.
I'm in the very early stages, you know.
Yeah.
Like at the moment, I'm kind of just a sole trader.
Yeah.
You know, but I will be once I get my steering committee, because I'm very aware of the fact that I don't know everything and I need help, and my steering committee hopefully will help with that. And then it'll go down the route of the non-profit social enterprise.
Okay, and therefore you could tap into, Social Entrepreneurs Ireland or other agencies like that.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. Caroline, look, the chat room is just hotting up with support for you and compliments to you. Folks, I'm very conscious of time, so just a couple of thoughts. And I'm just going to invite very quickly Garrett and Owen. Any final comments? Garrett, any final thoughts? Just wrap it up in one line for us.
I would actually say, if you're out there and you want to get going, don't be afraid. Give us a call, get in touch with us. I mean, that's all I can say. We will support and do support all sectors of society. We have many people with disabilities. And one final comment, and maybe we have this back to front. We actually have a written policy of non-discriminatory and all-inclusivity, because a credit decision shouldn't look at factors outside of the business. But maybe, so that's why we don't have a disability product, but we do obviously service the disability market. So maybe we need to look at it in a different light, but it's deliberate under GDPR to not be actually asking questions we shouldn't be asking. So I don't, that might explain a little bit why.
Yeah. MicrofinanceIreland.com. Yeah. Okay, that's excellent. And Owen, final word.
I would echo what Garrett is saying. It is a non-discriminatory policy. It's very much on the business that we're assessing the company. So if people have ideas for businesses that they want to develop, so the offer is there to go to the local enterprise offices or Enterprise Ireland, depending on what the idea is, and we very much look forward to that, where there's those exciting opportunities that are coming through. So we wish people the very best with their companies. So thank you.
Okay, Owen, that's wonderful. Thank you so much, and then thank you for sharing all of the information with us. Just a couple of wrap-up thoughts, folks. Take a look at the chat room, because Eric Lamb from Step Up Ireland is advertising his next event there. It's a networking event at the end of November. Eric spoke at one of the previous webinars. So that's one thing. It's eric.lambe, that's Lambe, at stepupireland.ie, if you want to connect with Eric. I would also say I can see a lot of people talking about the challenges of starting up and finding finance if a person is disabled. And I also noticed some questions there around language and how the terminology that we use. I would encourage people maybe to group together and form an advocacy group, for people with disability who want to start up their own business or have their own business, because at the moment what I'm seeing is kind of lone actors, individuals who are campaigning and could do with support in terms of seeking change in this area. So I would encourage people maybe to come together and form some maybe collective to make change happen. Look, as I said earlier, there's quite a lot of business supports available in Ireland. I've presented I've typed in three websites that you can go to for more information on the supports. But I will say to you that supports that are targeted or tailored towards people with disability are not really available. But it is interesting to see what will happen with the forthcoming strategy that was talked about by the Minister earlier, and we'll keep people informed on that. One or two people were asking about keeping a place for them for the next webinar. I'm not doing that today. So if you've made a note of it, or if you've asked me, I'm not taking names today, but I will be emailing everybody next week with details of the December webinar, and that will enable you to contact me and book a place. Please remember, it is only available to people with disability. I won't be checking, obviously. It's based on an honesty system. On 1 o'clock, can I thank our speakers once again? Thank you so very much for being with us and for sharing your stories. It's been a really, really interesting session. My thanks to Alan for hosting us, to Declan for all the work, Declan McCulloch, for all the work that he's done on this initiative. And obviously, as I say, to Dublin Regional Enterprise Plan to 2020 for making all of this happen. So thank you very much, folks. Have a wonderful day. There is the, as I say, workshop in December, and we do plan on having future webinars and future initiatives in 2021, but these are currently being planned, and I will share those with you in the new year. So feel free to contact me or any of our colleagues that have spoken today for support, and we wish you every success in whatever you do in regard to your future career plans. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a great day.